Week is about what seems to be a new vocabulary in our ever-evolving political scene. It is called honorable arrests. Sometime last week, Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu was bundled into a police van and taken away for questioning over serious corruption allegations. This after investigators took close to 6 hours collecting evidence at the governor's home. A process that began at 5 a.m. when investigators arrived at the governor's home. Hours later, he was free. And of course, like many other politicians before him, blamed his detractors for his woes. And then the Council of Governors demanded that such arrests be conducted with what they termed as decorum, and even going as far as complaining about the live coverages of such arrests. The council, however, left it all to our imagination what honorable arrests would look like. And so I'll go ahead and imagine. When a governor is arrested, is going to be arrested, he or she will be informed beforehand that officers are on their way to pick him up. Then a red carpet will be rolled out. Traditional dancers would be lined up to spice up the event. Meanwhile, all TV signals would have been switched on to ensure no one disrupts the flow of events. I imagine an instance of an officer humbly asking, "Naomba mheshimiwa, tafadhali nikukamate tuandamani, tafadhali sana." Or maybe the governor would like to launch their arrest, complete with a ribbon and a pair of scissors, or even a plaque saying, "Governor so-and-so arrested here on such and such a day." Or better yet, a huge dummy check-like document with the reasons for the arrest. But that is only my imagination. The truth is that there can never be separate rights for governors or indeed any other public or state officers. If the governors want to be arrested decently, does that mean everyone else should be slapped and kicked while being arrested? What is this thing that makes them higher beings, far removed from lesser mortals like the rest of us? Wanting special treatment is just plain old big man syndrome. We voted for them and put them in those public offices as our servants, not to lord it over and create a superclass to be enjoyed by only the privileged. What about when women are arrested by county askaris or police officers and bundled into Land Rovers or grilled vans in the most undignified of fashions? Or those living with a disability and the aged? Don't they deserve even more decent treatment? I agree with EACC CEO Twalib Barak's sentiments that the agency will not order special vehicles or have air-conditioned cells for governors or any other high-ranking political leader suspected to have looted from public coffers. Corruption has slowly eroded the fabric of the Kenyan society in ways that we cannot fathom. And anyone suspected of involvement in corruption deserves nothing honorable. Otherwise, we would soon start asking people to steal honorably. That's my memo.
On my kicker tonight, I want to take advantage of the spiritual mood the country's leadership woke up to this morning to tell a small story. Now, jokes were shared this morning about the office of Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. But in London, it is actually not a laughing matter. On the 7th of June, Theresa May will be stepping down as Prime Minister, and the Conservative Party will have to elect her replacement as Prime Minister. Now, one of the frontrunners to succeed May is former Cabinet Minister Boris Johnson, a man long regarded as Prime Minister in waiting. But Boris Johnson is facing something that must baffle a lot of Kenyans, especially the political elite. The man is wanted in a London court for, listen to this, lying to the public during the campaigns ahead of the Brexit referendum vote. Lying in campaigns is a crime. Is it a wonder the British Empire, over which the sun never used to set, is no more? We must wonder as Kenyans. To be specific, Boris Johnson is accused of misconduct in public office, and that he lied by saying Britain gave £350 million, about 45 billion Kenya shillings a week to the European Union. Boris Johnson is accused of repeatedly making this claim during the EU referendum campaigns in 2016, just to push his case for the exit of Britain from the EU. But surely, what could be abnormal about that? What if Boris Johnson had promised to put 1 million acres under irrigation within 5 years, or create 1 million jobs for the youths within the same period? What if he had promised in the campaign to grow the British economy by 7 to 10%, or ensure that at least 33% of all government and parastatal appointments went to women? What if Boris Johnson promised to deliver between 5 and 9 world-class stadiums, other than the Wembley Stadium in London? Let's pause there for a moment and ask an easier question. What if Boris Johnson were a Kenyan? A powerful Kenyan at that? Well, he perhaps would have blamed political detractors, jealous of his number 10 Downing Street prospects. Yes, he would have held press conferences in London and castigated the investigative agencies of being used as errand boys to finish him politically. Now, earlier today, there was a spiritual atmosphere in Kenya's leadership circles as the annual prayer breakfast was held in Nairobi. President Uhuru Kenyatta made unusually brief remarks and asked leaders to act rather than just talk. And that if leaders delivered on their promises, Kenya, to quote the president, will change in under 5 years. But what if they were made to pay for the lying to the electorate? That would change not and earlier and faster than 5 years. That is my kicker tonight.
Very well. Tonight I want us to talk about prayers. Yes, the so-called national prayers, even if over some sumptuous, pricey breakfast at a high-end hotel. But just what was the top national leadership that converged at Safari Park praying for? What were they praying about? Who were they praying for? Do you know they even prayed for, wait for this, grand corruption and theft of public resources? They asked the Lord to help the country in the fight against corruption. But some of those linked to wanton looting of public resources were in that very prayer breakfast. Some leaders who have used grand national projects to irregularly benefit themselves and their families with tenders worth billions of shillings were there too. As Julius Malema would have said, Mama, they are here. Some under whose watch billions of shillings allocated to public projects such as health, education, and even social security have been siphoned, were there, supposedly to pray. Some members of parliament who have looked the other way failed to play their oversight role and cheered the national government as it wasted public resources were at the forefront seat in today's prayers. Never mind their below-par singing. A tweet by the new U.S. ambassador in Kenya in Nairobi, Kyle Makata, may well have summarized today's event. And he said, Kenyan leaders are praying and asking for forgiveness for the sin of differing. But our leaders must go just beyond the words and the prayers. Those who have stolen public resources for illegally benefited from the public coffers should just do a bit of what Zacchaeus the tax collector did, as outlined in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, verses 1 to 10. Specifically, verse 8, and I quote, But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. End of quote. If the looters don't vomit what they have looted, then today's prayer breakfast will be in vain. Jesus in his Sermon on the Mountain taught against praying in vain. And by vain I mean worthless, empty, useless prayers. This is in Matthew chapter 6, verse 7. And I quote, When you pray, use not vain repetitions, as the heathen do. For they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. End of quote. And by the way, did you notice how saintly and angelic our leaders were today at the prayer breakfast? And as soon as they left Safari Park, they were restored to political factory settings. You will hear the insults, the venom, as they wait for next year's prayer breakfast. Watch out.
On my take tonight, can I dream? Please allow me to. To dream of a country in which we are guided by principles, by values. A country in which our leaders are totally beholden to the people and to the promises they made. Where leaders feel a personal sense of failure when they do not deliver what they promise to. A country like South Korea, where in 2014, the education minister apologized for 2 faulty questions in the national college entrance exams that left thousands of students confused. Or a country like Japan, where just last month, Olympic Minister Yoshitaka Sakurada resigned after making remarks deemed offensive to the people affected by the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. He said he made comments that hurt the feelings of those in the disaster-hit areas, and that just retracting the comments would not be enough. To add to that, the Prime Minister Shinzo Abe also apologized for this, saying he was the one responsible for appointing the minister. Or a country like the UK, where a number of ministers resigned in opposition to their boss, Prime Minister Theresa May's approach to Brexit, where even Theresa May herself resigned after failing 3 times to deliver on Brexit. Now, the resignation doesn't in itself make her a saint, for many have criticized her other failings on local issues, like how she handled the Grenfell Tower disaster. Nonetheless, in a tearful speech, she said this, and I quote, "I deeply regret not delivering Brexit." Or let's bring it closer home to a country like Botswana, where former President Ian Khama has broken ranks with the Independence Party and his successor, a man with whom he has disagreed on a number of policy issues, the latest being the decision to lift the ban on elephant hunting. And yes, I can only dream of such a country, because here in Kenya, MPs who claim to have ideological differences with the parties that sponsor them to parliament openly promote other parties and candidates, but refuse to take the bold step of leaving the party and confidently standing for what they claim to believe in. Governors who have been accused of embezzling billions of funds. Leaders who have been linked to loss of such funds in such critical ministries like that of health, who neither apologize nor step down for these failures that take place under their watch. Or governors who, rather than apologize for disgusting garbage in hospitals in their counties, blame it all on political rivals. Or perhaps senators who've been linked to serious fraud involving billions of shillings worth of gold are not only still in office, but also don't believe they owe the country any explanation whatsoever. Now, I know that everyone is innocent until proven guilty, but surely the duty the leaders owe us cannot just be a legal one. What we have with them is also a social contract characterized by moral obligations. Obligations that are far higher than just a legal threshold. Look, Theresa May is not accused of theft, and the Brexit mess is not even entirely her fault. The South Korean minister did not set the exams that had problems. The ministers in the UK were not accused of murder at the time of their resignation. They all simply failed to deliver on what they had promised. Could that happen in Kenya? I can only dream. And if that dream ever comes true, please don't wake me. And that is my take tonight.
Now, tonight, my angle is on what I will just call public accountability, something that featured rather prominently at the National Prayer Breakfast. For several days, it seemed to me that the country had been looking for one man, Moses Masika Wetangula, the 62-year-old senator from Bungoma, because of a certain audio clip that surfaced about 2 weeks ago that appeared to suggest that the senator had something to do with a certain transaction that was widely interpreted to involve gold. Now, the reason why the senator became the talk of town was because the voice on the clip was strikingly similar to that of his. And secondly, there was an ongoing probe on fake gold here in Nairobi. So yesterday, the good senator from Bungoma finally showed up at a Ford Kenya meeting after being away for an anti-corruption meeting in Hong Kong. And everybody expected this matter would finally be laid to rest. You see, this is an issue that has so consumed the country that it has nearly drowned the very important conversation that was going on about corruption. But surprise, surprise, when Wetangula was asked about the audio clip, his response was, and I quote, This is a non-issue and I don't want to engage in it. Wait a minute. The questions that everybody has been asking about what seems to be a gold scandal are all a non-issue? Am I missing something? You see, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, a non-issue is, and I quote, an issue of little or no importance, validity or concern. It does not take a genius to know that the issue of gold scandals in Kenya cannot be of little importance. It is not also of little concern. Does anybody remember that in 2012, the then president of DR Congo, Joseph Kabila, came all the way to look for his missing gold at JKA? Or does it not matter that this issue has put Kenya in the news once again, not for winning a gold medal, but for reasons that are less golden? You just need to go on Twitter or Facebook or simply search the two words Wetangula and gold on Google to see the more than 134,000 results to know that there is considerable concern over this matter. Now, I do not know if what is on that clip is the senator's voice. Neither do I know if he has anything to do with gold, real or fake. But it is not in doubt that those 290,000 residents of Bungoma who woke up to vote for him on the August 8, 2017 election would be happy to know the answers to both of those questions. That is not a non-issue. I will recall the words of today's keynote speaker at the prayer breakfast, Dr. Michael Hastings. In describing true leadership, he spoke of three key things: a higher purpose, accountability, and transparency. Leadership that is accountable and that recognizes the primacy of the voter as a key thing. And so tonight, are there some humble and accountable leaders out there who rally the great nation of Kenya, the nation of Eliud Kipchoge, the great country of Mwalimu Peter Tabichi? That is the cry of the nation tonight. And that is not a non-issue. That's my angle tonight.
Absolutely. And one thing that is also not a non-issue is that Narok will be hosting Madaraka Day, 56th Madaraka Day celebrations. And so probably a bit more of the dances that Kaikai was enjoying here, you will see more.
Actually, there is an invitation from one Captain Brian Sankale, who says, I should bring the news gang to Narok town.
Yes, and while you're at it, you know, the governor tonight said this will be an opportunity to see a real Moran, not the ones you see in pictures. I still can't get over that. Or the ones that we see in Nairobi. Cough, cough.
The ones
it's the governor of Narok who said.
I think we need to end this show now.
There is
So
one
go
to your
to
left.
Narok for
There is one to your left.
You might want to tell Governor
This
tonight
might be
that.
just that
Uko
joke.
Nairobi
This might be that joke
That's
that's
taken
taken
too
too far. So
Okay.
up
I
in
don't
Narok.
think Governor Tunai was talking about the news gang.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
Or about you. Okay. Okay. Good night. Lester Kaikai has a press conference to talk about
And if
my
you have a
jokes.
spare choir in Narok, please donate it to
We don't need to Parliament, yes.
Oh, good night. Thank you so much for watching. The hashtag is NewsGang, and the conversation always continues. We'll see you again next week. Good night.